Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Good Morning Trading for Thursday, May 21st, 2026. A trader speaks to traders. Nvidia spoke last night, and Asia went wild, caught fire. This morning, the Kospi is soaring by nearly 8%, Samsung up 8%, SoftBank is skyrocketing, up 20% in Tokyo, plus 20% for SoftBank. And yet on Wall Street, US futures are currently just slightly in the red. In just one night, you have the perfect summary of the famous buy the rumor, sell the news. Stay with me until the end. At the end of the show, I'll tell you the story of a rather charming older brother in a California restaurant in 1993 and the paper tablecloth that would change the face of global capitalism and our everyday lives. So today we have three key issues that will set the pace for our day. Digesting Nvidia's earnings, the health of the US job market with the weekly jobless claims, and the trajectory of oil. While Washington and Tehran seem to be getting closer to an agreement, and that's why WTI, for example, oil, fell by nearly 5% yesterday. So on Wall Street, yesterday's session ended in the green ahead of the highly anticipated Nvidia earnings release. The Dow Jones regained 1.3%, it's above 50,000 points. The S&P 500 gained a little over 1%, and the Nasdaq more or less followed suit. But the real issue stubbornly remains with interest rates. The 10-year US yield is at 4.68 and the 30-year at 5.19, both at their highest in 19 years. So we have this bond market pressure, which I would call the silent threat of the moment. It's not talked about much in mainstream media. I haven't heard it mentioned. And yet, borrowing at 5.19% when you're in AI is complicated. Now, Asia is giving us an extremely mixed picture this morning, but it's quite spectacular. The Nikkei is up nearly 3.5%, driven by SoftBank, which itself is up 20%. The Kospi is soaring by almost 8%, pulled up by Samsung, which is also up 8%. So, for those who don't know, the Kospi is South Korea's main index. I traded it more than 20 years ago. I love this index because it moves a lot. It's kind of like a little Asian Nasdaq. I don't trade it anymore because now I sleep at night. When I was 20 years younger, I didn't sleep at night, so I traded the Kospi. In the morning, I would go to work. Now I can trade whatever I want, whenever I want, and everything is going well in Asia. The Australian stock market index has also experienced a notable upward trend. Despite this impressive fireworks show in tech stocks, US futures are trading in the red early this morning. The excitement stops at the West Coast. The message is clear. A good part of Nvidia's performance was already priced in. Let's move on to technical analysis. So I click the button and there you go. Technical analysis. All right, let's go. Let's go in order for once. The CAC 40 is above 8,000 points. Congratulations. It really benefited from the rebound in the US markets. What's interesting is that it's above its monthly pivot point. It might be difficult for it to hold or defend that level, but as long as we're above the monthly pivot point, we've entered a new paradigm. We're moving to a, let's say, slightly more positive outlook for the CAC 40 with the possibility of a rebound. And if, on top of that, the monthly pivot point acts as support, that's really perfect. They're perfectly aligned to be able to take off. The DAX, same thing, 24,750, my favorite level, every 750 points, protected by the monthly middleware at 24,007. So the European indices are very well positioned, but they're still going to wait for the opening of the US markets. We have some important statistics coming up. We'll look at them in a moment, and we'll see if the Nvidia effect is still in play. I'm telling you, be careful, be careful. Asia, except for banks and the like, is up 20%. And this morning, we're in the red, a slight red on US futures. So caution, caution, caution. Normally, there isn't. Above 50,000, as we discussed for the Dow Jones, it's a very good technical sign. For the Nasdaq, it's in an upward phase, but look, it hasn't exploded. It hasn't gained 8%. It hasn't gained 20%. Nvidia went up a little over 1% in after-hours trading. There wasn't any frenzy. Fortunately, Nvidia's results were exceptional. Otherwise, I can't even tell you how hard we would have been hit. So just a slight increase on the Nasdaq with Nvidia posting results above expectations in absolutely everything. S&P 500, exactly the same thing. Gold, what do you want me to say? Same thing. Lower than last month, at the bottom of the range. I told you it might be able to bounce off the monthly support, and it did. Very good. That's technical. That's pure technical analysis. That usually works well, and it's done. Now it's coming back to last month's low. If we go back to the monthly support, don't try again. If you want to buy again, listen, given the slope over the past 2 months, it's not great, but you'll have to wait for a W pattern and nothing else. The first move, the first bounce off the monthly support, is done. Bitcoin is climbing back up slightly, thankfully, because it was really bottoming out there. There was a big risk of a collapse to go back and test the monthly pivot point, so it's regaining a bit of value. And then our oil, as you can see, is dropping sharply. We've lost a little more than 5%. That's related to what I was telling you about diplomatic negotiations that seem to be making some very strong progress with Iran right now. It looks like we might finally be on the verge of reaching a comprehensive agreement. There are clear signs of the regional blockade easing up, especially since more cargo ships are successfully getting through. These are vessels that are friendly to Tehran, consisting mainly of Chinese ships, but notably, they do not include any Japanese vessels at this time. And they're not being blocked by the American embargo. So here we can also see the connection with the meeting between Donald Trump and the Chinese leader a few days ago. If my ships get through, you let them pass. And in exchange, I won't supply weapons to Andalil. So today's main topic was obviously Nvidia, the chip giant, which yesterday reported results that beat expectations across the board. Let me give you the numbers because they're impressive. $1.87 per share versus the expected $1.77. Record revenue at nearly $82 billion. And above all, the data center business surged by almost 100%, specifically up 92%, reaching $75 billion. And the forecasts for the current quarter are pointing to around $90 billion. That's another 20% increase in just one quarter. So once again, everything is above market expectations. This is where I say we need to be careful. The results are outstanding. They're above everything we hoped for. And yet the stock is barely up 1%. So the day Nvidia disappoints, and obviously it can't keep going up forever, it could really, really, really hurt. What has also strongly supported Nvidia is that Nvidia's board announced a small additional share buyback program of $80 billion. Let me remind you, share buyback programs are when a company has so much money that it buys its own shares on the market to destroy them. In other words, there are fewer and fewer Nvidia shares available, which helps drive up the stock price. The fewer shares there are, the more valuable they become, so shareholders are happy, they're reassured, and they'll hold on to their Nvidia shares. Because in the end, Nvidia isn't going to give them $80 billion in dividends to split up, but instead will buy back shares, pushing up the price by $80 billion for their shares. Personally, I think that's a distortion of capitalism, but that's a topic we could discuss for hours. And we will, by the way. So, of course, all the analysts are enthusiastic after the fact. HSBC has raised Nvidia's price target to $325. In the end, Goldman Sachs was right. They were right once again. They're impressive, and they must have had quite a lot of Nvidia shares. Well done, guys. That's off. Your prediction yesterday was completely in line with what's happening now. But what we can see is that expectations were already extremely, unusually high, since Nvidia's stock itself didn't move despite these outstanding results. And what's actually weighing on Nvidia's valuation is those famous interest rates. At 10 years, at 30 years, which are extremely high. Today's agenda, quickly. At 2:30 p.m., weekly jobless claims in the United States of America. We're expecting about 218,000 claims. At 2:30 p.m., the Philadelphia Fed Manufacturing Index. It's an important index, so we've got a little mix at 2:30 p.m. Things are gonna move. And at 3:45 p.m., we have the U.S. Flash PMI for the month of May. Before the U.S. market opens, we're gonna get the results from Walmart, super important, and from Ralph Lauren. So for those who didn't get my joke over the past 2 days about why I was wearing a Ralph Lauren polo with a little bear on it, well, there you go. I was selling in the markets on Monday and Tuesday, and the markets did go down. It was just a little nod to remind you that Ralph Lauren was reporting earnings. I noticed that some people have absolutely no economic, historical, or stock market culture and didn't get the little reference. They just saw, look at that guy, he's wearing a ridiculous polo. Come on, guys, seriously, this isn't kindergarten recess. It's been 48 years since I was last there. Let me give you a little advertisement, what we used to call a commercial. Before we continue, allow me a brief aside. On trading sessions like the ones coming up, volatility is massive and everyone is trying to figure out the direction. A lot of you ask me how to follow a real path to seriously become a trader and not just a patchwork of tutorials from here and there. So for those of you who want to move forward both quickly and in depth, efficiently, I offer my seminar and training package, which combines my complete method over 26 weeks plus 26 weeks of follow-up. That's a full year for you. I'm putting 30 years of experience at your disposal. And above all, a full week of total immersion in Andorra. We trade from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. We do market analysis, trading plans, live execution, debriefing, and review every single trade. It's a unique commando-style experience, and everyone who's done it has, even years later, they still talk to me about it. We cover the theory, and then we go straight into action, fighting directly in the trenches. Take advantage of it. Now's the time to sign up. I have 2 sessions open in July, from the 5th to the 12th, and from the 12th to the 19th. After that, next year, it'll be in Montreal. In 2027, I did it in Montreal. In 2028, I did it in Quebec. In 2029, Chicago. 2030, planned for New York. 2031, Los Angeles. 2032, if all goes well, tentatively, Tokyo. 2033, Rome. 2034, Florence. For the next 10 years, that'll be it if you're in Europe and you don't want to buy a plane ticket to join me in the United States. Now is the time to sign up. There are 10 spots left. It's up to you to take action. Now we're going to move on, and for each Good Morning Trading, I'll share a little story of the day. Let me check. Okay, I haven't been too long. Each time, I'll give you a short anecdote of the day. Well, I have to find one, so it takes a bit of time, but it's really to make things a bit more fun, to strengthen your stock market culture, and also a bit of economic culture, because honestly, it's pretty dismal. My 8th grade students had a better level than this. I think a lot of adults. Oh yes, because in fact, I used to teach economics in stock market classes, which got me into a lot of trouble with the national education unions, who are all, when I say far left, I'm actually being pretty nice. Okay, just before the anecdote, here's a quick summary. Asia is telling us that the market wants to believe, they want to believe. The US futures are telling us, well, it's not a done deal. So with a stock market that's already historically expensive, almost at all-time highs, and a 30-year US bond at 5.2%, be cautious at the open. We could see a burst of enthusiasm, a gap up, that could close just as quickly as it opened. In my opinion, that's going to be dangerous, so don't rush in. Logically, you would want to start buying if Nvidia posts exceptional results. In any case, that's how they saw it in Asia, but in Europe, they didn't see it that way. The only ones who really make the decisions are the big bosses, the Americans. So we'll wait until 3:30, 3:35, 3:40 p.m. to actually see what they think. So discipline first, then the level. The first trades are going to be crucial. All right, now for the anecdote as promised. In 1993, in a small restaurant in San Jose, 3 engineers met over coffee, one of whom was Jensen Huang, who was 29 at the time and had just quit his job. On a small paper napkin, the 3 of them started sketching out the architecture of a company that would make graphics processors for video games. These guys were geeks. The idea seemed completely crazy, totally insignificant compared to the giants of the time like Intel and AMD. 32 years later, that little idea scribbled down is now worth over $4 trillion in market capitalization. You guessed it. They sketched out the idea for Nvidia in that little restaurant in San Jose. And apparently, I haven't checked, but apparently Jensen Huang regularly goes back to that same little restaurant, maybe as a way to return to his roots. So remember, it's rarely the most brilliant ideas of the moment, the ones making the most buzz, that build empires. It's often, sometimes, the ones you quietly sketch out on the corner of a table. And by the way, that's what Napoleon did when he was preparing his battle plans, like for Austerlitz, for example. At night, in the quiet, he would win. He just had to deal with the unexpected, like Waterloo. Well, that wasn't exactly a great French victory. Have a great session, everyone. See you tomorrow. Stay curious, it's super important. And wishing you all the best. Be careful with the US market open. Things could get pretty volatile. Ciao, see you tomorrow. Oh, wait, I forgot something. Yeah, that's why I'll always be terrible at YouTube. Don't forget to subscribe. Yeah, awesome. All right then. I guess I'll